You mentioned obviously Newcastle being great up front but shaky in defence for various reasons. Reminds me of another team in the Premier League in a similar position in your boys, Aston Villa, right? Beat Chelsea 2-1, which is a monumental win, especially with the results, like you say, that have happened around Villa. I think it really helps their push for top four, and only a few points outside of that now, which is more than kind of recoverable. But it was attack that won over defence, I think, for Villa and saved them. And I said this a couple of pods back that with the firepower you've got now, especially considering the additions of Rashford and Marlon and Asensio, who was again brilliant, you could really outscore opponents, and that's the way I think it happened in this game. Chelsea looked again pretty toothless, had a lot of the ball in the first half, but Marcus Rashford coming on in for the second half and Asensio combining for both goals was a real kind of marker really for your transfer window. I hate saying the team was won the transfer window. You called that quite early, but until results start to happen and performances start to be put in, you don't know. But in retrospect, it looks like Villa have had a good window, doesn't it?
Yeah, superb. You're right. The players that they now have in their artillery that they can bring off the bench, it makes it so difficult for oppositions to know what they're going to come up against because you've got such a versatile attacking line now. You've got players like Rodgers and Rashford who are really willing to like run at a man and take them on. You've got players like Asensio that wants to unlock everything with a good pass. You've got Marlon and Bailey who are going to run beyond the defenders. There's so much to like going forward for Villa. They maybe are still lacking a bit of clinical edge at times. And obviously they had a bit of a helping hand in the goals this weekend. But when you've got players like that are going to press the issue home and challenge defenders, you are going to get goals from it. And we saw that brilliantly in this game because Villa's goal difference this season is still -2 because we just defensively have been so weak and we're missing key players in defensive positions constantly. Another game goes by where a centre-back goes off injured. I think there's like 6 in a row or something ridiculous where a centre-back's had to go off injured. And obviously we're now missing Kamara from the midfield and we know what he brings to Villa defensively. So you really are looking at those forward players to at least get you through the games. And the introduction of Rashford and Asensio, what incredible additions they are to the squad. Honestly, it feels. So many people have said like it feels like you're playing FIFA career mode and it's jumped forward 4 years to these random transfers. But actually, what it is Emery looking at the kind of profile of player that Villa really need to be going for to cement consistent European football.
100%.
And it's players with European experience, it's players that are used to winning, and it's players with a point to prove. And that's what those two players are. Asensio's not necessarily at the heights that he was at when he was at Real Madrid. Rashford, obviously, we've talked a lot about his time at Man United. They really want to resurrect their career, and what better platform than a club that is in the Champions League, is fighting to get back into it, has an incredibly good manager, and a fan base where the expectation isn't I want you to go and win the league every year, but it's just we're really enjoying this moment we're in. And it seemed like both of them already have settled incredibly well and seem really happy to be playing football for Aston Villa, and that's massive for us.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think there's just that feeling of you are not cemented as a top four team. Like, it's such a competitive league now that you have to work for it. And obviously with Champions League football, I feel like Villa fans are a lot more realistic about what the league means, but to still be competing for top four is a real testament, I think, to Emery and the way he's tried to rotate a fairly threadbare squad at times, but not so threadbare in forward positions. And I think the impact of Rashford, especially coming on the way he did and the impact he had, is exactly the kind of fresh energy that Villa have needed in forward positions as well. They've been crying out for. And he comes in from the left so superbly, doesn't he? And we've seen him at his best do that for United. But the way that Asensio as well read what he was going to do and got in the right positions, especially for that second goal, you can argue that obviously Jorgensen should have done better. But the way he kind of connected with that cross was superb. And that's Rashford getting in those positions in the first place. And seeing him receive that ball when it had been already touched on by the Chelsea defender and then still managed to get a foot to it, to divert it in towards Asensio for the equaliser. That was superb too. So his technique's coming back, I think, isn't it? And I think that's the Rashford that I want to see resurrecting his career, wherever they may be too. But for Villa, you're seeing the benefits of a guy that's really hungry to do his best.
Yeah, it feels like there's a touch of confidence to him again.
Yeah.
And that was something that we kept saying was lacking. I watched a lot of him at the start of the season at Man United, and we said, like, it felt like he was never playing with a smile on his face. It looked like he didn't want to be on the pitch. He looks like he really wants to be there so far, and he looks hungry. Every time he gets the ball, he wants to take the full back on and get a ball into the box. He's not overly greedy. I mean, his ability to spot a pass, it's fantastic, and you can see why it's never really worked for him as just an out and out number 9. He obviously thrives off playing with others, and he needs people on their wavelength. And I think that's the other thing. When you bring in 2 additions of that sort of calibre, they are going to link up well together. They've got a good mutual understanding of each other already, and that seems to have been formed really quickly. That's so encouraging. And you need depth in the squad. Villa are in the middle of a ridiculous fixture pile-up. They asked for the Liverpool game to be moved and were turned down by the Premier League. Now, last week, you and Dave were talking about Villa having a bit of a fall-off with the draw to Ipswich, and whether there had to be a bit of a question to be asked over whether they can push on this year and get European qualification again. What a week Villa have had now off the back of that, because they've used the squad. They've had a few players come back. Konsa was back in this game. That is massive. You saw what he contributed already. Like that goal line clearance from Cole Palmer's effort shows you what it means to have someone who defensively knows his position and can read the game. Because we've been playing players out of position at centre back. We've been playing partnerships that have never played together. Now we're getting players back. That's huge. And then having the attacking options we've had in January meant we were able to rotate a lot more. So we get a point against Liverpool, which looks like an amazing result after watching what they've done to Man City today. And then 3 points against Chelsea, along with quite a favourable Champions League draw. I think we can say. I don't want to be disrespectful to Club Brugge, but I'd rather that than Dortmund, really. That's a great week for Villa, and all of a sudden it feels like your season is completely turned around in the space of a week. And it's such an interesting campaign for us.
Yeah, you could argue they should have had more goals as well. The challenge, if you can call it that, the assault from Cucurella on Bogart as well, that was completely ignored. How is that not given? I'm not sure, because it seemed pretty obvious to me, quite overly physical. Something reminiscent of the 90s, wasn't it?
What's the point of VAR this season? I saw so many this weekend where it didn't get involved when it absolutely should have, and then it got involved in things that you think, well, that wasn't necessary. Like, I don't know if we'll have time to mention the Man United game too much, but like, you see one there overturned, and you think there is nowhere near enough evidence to overturn this. And then on the flip side, when there's enough evidence to give it and actually fix a situation, it doesn't. Cucurella has got both arms around Bogart and he's literally hanging his weight off him, and it means that he can't swing through to connect with the ball in a goal scoring opportunity. Like, it's not only a foul, it's probably a red card as well. You've denied him an obvious goal scoring opportunity with no attempt to play the ball. I cannot get my head around why VAR doesn't pick that up. If the ref misses it in amongst the entire kind of confusion of the box and a few players going for the ball, fine. But why have we got VAR then?
Yeah, VAR is meant to be for clear and obvious errors, and if that's not a clear and obvious miss, then I don't know what is. But let's not bore people to death with VAR talk, because we've probably got more to speak of throughout the rest of this pod. But we'll finish on Tyrone Mings as well, who obviously went off injured. We don't know the extent of the injury yet, but frustrating to see, although Pau Torres is apparently back in training very soon, so one step forward, one step back, really, isn't it?
Yeah, constant. The centre-back injuries in particular, it's just crazy what that's done to Villa. I've lost count of how many partnerships we've had this season now. Obviously, Disasi wasn't able to play in this game because it's his parent club, so he'll be back in the next fixture as well, which is good, because he looked really good against Liverpool. Yeah. And Konsa's back, that's huge. You just feel for Mings, because he's at an age where he can't afford to be picking up these injuries so regularly and still play at that top level. And actually, there's nothing to say that Mings can't be a really vital part of Villa's defence still. He's still got the ability defensively. He reads the game so well. He's very good at driving forward with the ball. He can pick a really good pass. But it's his knee. His knee just keeps letting him down. And when you start to see those recurring ones, it might not be as serious as the ACL, but if he misses a couple of weeks here and a couple of weeks there, it just adds up after a while. And you think that might be the end of kind of him cementing himself as a starting 11 player for a club like Aston Villa, and actually he might just have to sit back and let Torres take that spot when he's back fit. It's a shame.
Well, 3 points nonetheless, mate, and a huge 3 points
Yeah.
for Villa. So
Massive.
massive result.